Hold on tight, because what you're about to hear will change how you look at the woods forever. Before we dive into this chilling mystery, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you don't miss our next story. Trust me, you won't want to. The year was 1994, a time of dial-up modems and grunge music, and in the quiet, tree-lined town of Havenwood, Oregon. The biggest mystery was why the local diner's coffee was always cold. But on a crisp autumn morning, a mystery of a different kind began. One that would haunt the town for 3 decades and defy all logic. It started with a 9-year-old girl named Alara, a girl with a heart full of wonder and a head full of fairy tales, who walked into the Whispering Pines forest and simply vanished. Alara Finch was not like the other kids in Havenwood. While they were busy trading baseball cards and talking about the new Power Rangers movie, she was lost in a world of her own, one filled with talking animals and magical glades. Her best friends were the worn-out books in her backpack. Her favorite place was the edge of the Whispering Pines forest, a place most of the town's children were warned to stay away from. Her mother, Sarah, a kind but perpetually worried woman, had given her a simple rule. Don't go past the old oak tree, Alara. It's too easy to get lost. Alara would always nod, her wide brown eyes promising compliance. But on that fateful morning of October 12, 1994, with the air smelling of damp leaves and wood smoke, she felt a pull she couldn't ignore. She had just finished reading a story about a hidden fairy ring deep in a forbidden forest, and a powerful sense of curiosity, mingled with a child's innocent bravado, urged her to go just a little bit further. She packed a single peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a bottle of water, and her favorite worn copy of The Secret Garden into her small, floral-patterned backpack. Her last words to her mother were a cheerful, "I'm just going to play near the big oak, Mom. I'll be home for dinner." Sarah, busy with laundry, simply smiled and waved. She had no idea that those would be the last words she would ever hear from her daughter. Alara's journey into the forest was not one of fear, but of excitement. The sun filtered through the canopy, painting the ground in dancing mosaics of light and shadow. The sound of her scuffed leather boots crunching on the fallen leaves was a rhythmic melody. The cool air felt fresh and clean in her lungs. She imagined she was a brave explorer, a heroine on a quest to find something magical. She passed the old oak tree, the one her mother had warned her about. Her heart hammered in her chest, a mixture of fear and triumph. It was the first time she had ever disobeyed her mother, and the thrill of it was intoxicating. With each step deeper into the woods, the familiar path began to fade. The trees grew taller and closer together, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The forest, which had seemed so friendly from the outside, now felt vast and ancient. A subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere made the hairs on her arms stand up. The birdsong had quieted, replaced by the hushed whisper of the wind through the leaves. She felt as though she were walking on the edge of 2 worlds, the one she knew and another, older one that held its breath and watched her. She kept walking, convinced that just around the next bend, she would find something truly extraordinary. She imagined a hidden clearing filled with bioluminescent flowers, or a small stream where the water sparkled with magic. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long, spooky shadows. A genuine sense of loneliness and fear began to creep into her heart. Her innocent bravado was slowly being replaced by a child's stark terror. She was lost. She turned back, but the path she had followed was gone. All the trees looked the same. The friendly rustle of the leaves now sounded like 1,000 tiny voices whispering her name. She started to run, her small legs pumping, tears streaming down her face. She called out for her mother, her voice a small, panicked echo in the immense silence of the forest. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs gave out, collapsing in a heap of sobs next to a strange-looking tree. It wasn't an oak or a pine, but a type of tree she had never seen before. Its bark was a smooth, silvery gray, and its branches twisted into impossible, almost artistic shapes. She took off her shoes, her feet aching, and huddled against its cool trunk, her small frame shaking with a profound sense of helplessness and despair. The last thing she remembered was the strange tree, its bark glowing faintly in the twilight, before the world around her faded to black. That night, a massive search was launched. The entire town of Havenwood, along with the local police and search and rescue teams, combed the forest inch by inch. They found her backpack near the edge of the woods, her half-eaten sandwich still inside. But there was no sign of Alara, It was as if the forest had swallowed her whole, leaving no trace. The case went cold, a tragic local legend that became a cautionary tale for parents and a source of quiet grief for the town. Fast forward to 2024. Havenwood was no longer a small, quiet town. It had grown, attracting new families and businesses. The memory of Alara Finch had faded into the background, a sad story people only whispered about on Halloween. The Whispering Pines Forest was now a protected state park, and a new generation of park rangers patrolled its trails. One of them was a young woman named Maya, a recent college graduate with a degree in forestry and an insatiable curiosity for the unknown. She had heard the old stories but dismissed them as folklore. On a routine patrol, she was charting a new trail near a little-known section of the forest, a place locals still called the Old Wilds. The forest was in a state of constant change, and she was surprised to find a peculiar clearing that wasn't on any map. In the center of the clearing, next to a towering, ancient oak tree, she saw something that made her stop in her tracks. A pair of worn, scuffed leather boots, neatly placed side by side. They looked like something out of a time capsule. Her mind immediately went to the local legends. But what really sent a shiver down her spine wasn't the shoes. It was the tree they were next to. According to her map and her own extensive knowledge of the forest's history, that specific oak tree, a gnarled giant with branches like twisted arms, hadn't been there a year ago. It was new, impossibly so, and yet it looked hundreds of years old. The tree in its place, on all the old maps, was a much younger pine tree. This was an impossible paradox, a tree that was both ancient and brand new. Maya's heart pounded in her chest. She carefully took out her phone, snapping a picture of the shoes and the strange tree. She knew she had stumbled upon something that defied all logical explanation. How could a pair of boots from 1994 be found next to a tree that didn't exist in 1994? The old, forgotten mystery of Alara Finch was suddenly, impossibly, and terrifyingly real again. Maya's hands trembled as she stood over the shoes. She was a woman of science, of facts, and logic, but the scene before her defied everything she knew. She carefully photographed the boots from every angle, documenting the position of each fallen leaf around them. She then turned her attention to the tree. Its bark was a smooth metallic silver, unlike any species native to Oregon. Gnarled, almost impossibly intertwined branches twisted upwards, creating a canopy so dense that it seemed to absorb the light. It wasn't just old, it felt ancient, timeless. And according to the park's forestry logs and satellite images from just last year, this spot had been occupied by a young ponderosa pine. Back at the ranger station, Maya's supervisor, a grizzled veteran named Stan, listened to her report with a look of polite skepticism that slowly morphed into genuine concern. "I know it sounds crazy, Stan, but the boots, they're exactly as described in the original case file. Same brand, same color, same size, and the tree, ... It's impossible. It's like it's not from this forest, not from this world." Stan's face was a mask of conflicting emotions. He remembered Elara's mother, the way her eyes had lost their light in the weeks after her daughter disappeared. He remembered the feeling of failure, the town's collective sadness. He pulled out the old case file, the yellowed paper brittle with age. He cross-referenced Maya's photos with the detailed descriptions of Elara's clothing. Everything matched perfectly. He also found a faded drawing Alara had made in her notebook, depicting a magic tree with silvery bark and swirling branches. He had dismissed it as a child's fantasy back then. Now, it looked eerily familiar. "Get the lab to analyze that bark sample," he said, his voice now firm. "And for God's sake, don't tell anyone about this yet. We don't need a media circus. This is a cold case, and if we're wrong, it'll just reopen old wounds for the Finch family." Maya and Stan began to dig deeper, revisiting old town archives and interviewing original search party members. Most people had moved on, their memories of the incident hazy. But there was one person who remembered everything with chilling clarity. An elderly hermit named Silas, who lived in a cabin on the outskirts of the forest. He had been a trapper in '94 and was known for his intimate knowledge of the woods. Silas was a man of few words, his face a roadmap of wrinkles, carved by decades of sun and solitude. When Maya and Stan showed him the photos of the shoes and the tree, a look of profound fear crossed his face. "The whispering man's tree," he whispered, his voice a dry rustle like autumn leaves. He explained that the old-timers had a legend about a being who lived in the forest as deepest parts, a creature that could manipulate time and space. They called it the Whispering Man because its presence was always preceded by a strange humming whisper in the wind. The legend said he would choose a person who was lost or sad and offer them a way to another world through a magical silvery tree. But there was a price. They had to leave something behind. Silas then revealed a secret he had kept for 30 years. He had been the one who found Elara's shoes. He was checking his traps the day after she went missing when he stumbled upon them. But he hadn't found them next to a tree. He'd found them in an open field that no longer existed, a place where a new, impossible tree now stood. "It was the first time I saw it, that tree," Silas said, his eyes distant. "It grew right there overnight. And when the search parties came, it was gone, and that field was just field again. I put the shoes back where I found them and never told a soul. I knew what it meant. I knew she was gone, not just lost." He handed Maya a small, leather-bound journal. "This was my grandfather's," he said. He wrote about the Whispering Man, said the man could only be seen by those who truly believed in magic. Maya opened the journal. The first few pages were a chronicle of a similar disappearance in the late 1800s. Young boy who was found 30 years later sitting in the middle of a forest clearing, not a day older, with no memory of where he had been. He, too, had been found next to a tree that appeared and disappeared like a ghost. The entry ended with a warning. The Whispering Man takes what is lost, but he can be reasoned with by someone who understands his world. He gives as much as he takes, a trade between realities. The discovery of the journal and the revelation from Silas changed everything. This wasn't a missing person case anymore. It was a phenomenon. Maya felt a thrilling, almost desperate need to understand. She spent nights poring over the old texts in Elara's case file, connecting the dots that no one had seen before. Elara's drawing of the magic tree, the unusual bark, the sudden appearance of the tree and the shoes. It all pointed to the same conclusion. The tree was a portal, a temporal anchor, and Elara had passed through it. But where had she gone? Maya went back to the forest, to the exact spot where she found the shoes. The tree was still there, its silver bark glowing faintly in the moonlight. She approached it cautiously, her heart a drumbeat in the silent night. She placed her hand on its smooth trunk, and a strange, low hum vibrated through her palm. Felt like an electric current, a silent whisper that resonated not just in her ears, but in her very bones. In that moment, she understood. The tree was not just a tree. It was an equation, a key. Elara hadn't just walked into a forest. She had walked through a crack in time itself. And now, 30 years later, the tree had returned, offering a second chance. But why? Suddenly a voice echoed in her mind, not in her ears. It was the same low hum, but with words woven into it. What is lost must be found. What is found must be given. It was a riddle. A trade. Elara was not lost. She was taken, and the shoes were the price she had to pay for her passage. But the tree had returned. It was her chance to bring Elara back. But what would she have to give in return? Maya looked at the shoes lying on the ground, a child's last memento of a world she had left behind. She picked them up, the leather cool and heavy in her hands. The whisper grew louder, more insistent, and she knew she had to make a choice. A choice that could either reunite a mother with her daughter, or trap her in a world of impossible paradoxes forever. Maya's resolve hardened. The low hum of the tree and the whisper in her mind weren't just a riddle. They were an invitation. Her hand, clutching Elara's worn leather shoes, shook with the weight of the decision. She knew this was a monumental risk, a step into the impossible, but she couldn't turn back. Lara's mother, Sarah, had spent 30 years of her life in silent agony, and Maya felt a sudden, powerful need to end her suffering. With a deep breath and a silent prayer, she placed her other hand on the silvery bark of the tree. A flash of blinding liquid light consumed her. The world dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors, a dizzying spiral of time and space. The humming grew into a thunderous roar, a sound that was both overwhelming and strangely peaceful. When the light faded, Maya found herself standing in a clearing, but it was nothing like the forest she had known. The air was thick with the scent of flowers that didn't exist on Earth, and the sky was a twilight canvas of shifting purples and greens. Strange glowing flora illuminated the ground, and the trees here had branches that were not wood but crystalline glass. This was Alara's world, a reality shaped by a child's imagination. In the center of the clearing, sitting serenely on a mossy, bioluminescent rock, is Alara. She looked exactly as she had in her missing person photo, a 9-year-old girl in a floral dress and a denim jacket. But her eyes, though full of a childlike innocence, held a profound ancient sadness. Her face was calm, peaceful, as if she had been waiting for a long, long time. The whispering man was not a man at all, but a shimmering, gaseous figure of light and sound that coalesced and dissipated around Alara. It was the hum, the whisper, the very essence of this world. You have found what was lost, the being hummed, its voice a symphony of wind chimes. Now, you must give what is found, Maya understood. The trade was not for a material object. She had found Alara, and she had to give something in return. She looked at Alara's vacant but gentle eyes. The girl didn't remember her mother, her home, or the world she had left behind. She was happy here, safe from the passage of time, but she was incomplete. The price of her return was a memory, a link, a thread of Maya's own existence. "I will give you my knowledge," Maya said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I will give you the memories of this investigation. The search, the tree, the legend. My very reason for being here. You can have it all." The gaseous form of the whispering man swirled and condensed. It was a being of balance, not malice. It did not want to steal. It wanted to make a fair exchange. It knew Alara's innocence was gone, replaced by the weight of 3 decades spent in a timeless void. It was not a matter of simply returning her, but of healing the paradox. The moment Maya made her offer, the being enveloped her and Alara in a soft white light. The exchange was instantaneous. Maya felt a part of her mind go blank, a key turning and locking away a sequence of events. The weeks of her investigation, the discovery of the shoes, the journal, the hermetic Silas, even the terrifying moment of stepping into the portal, all of it vanished, replaced by a hazy, mundane memory of a simple patrol route. Alara, on the other hand, gasped, a rush of memories flooding back into her mind. The face of her mother, the smell of her favorite cookies, the sound of her father's slaffit, all returned in a torrent of 30 years' worth of emotions. Maya awoke a few hours later, lying on the forest floor, disoriented but unharmed. She had no memory of what had happened, only a strange, lingering sense of loss she couldn't explain. The silvery tree was gone, replaced by the ponderosa pine that had always been there. Meanwhile, a few miles away, a disheveled, but very much alive Alara was found by a passing hiker. She was immediately taken to the hospital. Stan, who had been on a late-night patrol, got the call. When he arrived, he found a woman who looked 9 years old, but spoke with the wisdom and trauma of a 39-year-old. Alara's mother, Sarah, now a frail, white-haired old woman, rushed to the hospital. The reunion was a scene of both pure joy and profound grief, a mother finally holding the child she had mourned for 3 decades. Stan saw the two of them together, and his heart swelled. The cold case was finally closed, but he felt a lingering suspicion, a piece of the puzzle that didn't fit. He looked for Maya to discuss it, but when he found her back at the station, she was her usual self, with no memory of the fantastical events. He glanced at a photo on her desk from a few weeks ago, a snapshot of her, Stan, and another ranger. In the picture, Maya was smiling, holding a small leather-bound journal. He looked at the spot where the tree had been, now just an ordinary patch of forest floor. The shoes were gone, and with them, a part of the memory that had made the impossible possible. The Whispering Pines forest was quiet once more. The mystery of the girl who walked into the woods had ended, but a new, unwritten mystery had begun. The silent sacrifice of a woman who saved a life, but forgot she ever did. The shoes of a missing girl, lost for 30 years, found next to a tree that shouldn't exist. This is a paradox that defies every law of nature and time. What secrets does this ancient forest hold? What really happened to Alara Finch? And who or what is responsible for this chilling discovery? The mystery of Whispering Pines is just beginning. What do you think happened to Alara? Let us know in the comments below. If you were hooked by this story and want to know what happens next, Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss the next part of this mind-bending mystery.